Hello, Reddit. I've been thinking about posting this for a while, but I need to know that I'm not crazy, and that maybe someone else has experienced something similar. It happened when I was about 6 or 7 years old, living in our old house in suburban Ohio. It always started at dusk. I'd be in the living room playing with Lego towers or watching cartoons, and suddenly I'd feel this look. You know, that creepy feeling when someone's looking at you from the back of the head? I looked back at the big window that looked out onto our front yard, and there she was. A tall, incredibly thin figure standing under a streetlight on the sidewalk, directly across from our house. The distance was so great that I couldn't make out any details except for one thing: her face. It was pale, almost glowing in the darkness, with deep, dark hollows for eyes, and it was always pointed straight at me. She never moved. She never took a step. She just stood there, watching. I would call my mother, but by the time she got there, Grandma was usually gone. My mother said it must be the shadows from the tree or my imagination, but I knew it wasn't. I could see her face. I called her Gray Lady because she looked like she was wearing an old gray coat that hung on her like a coat hanger. This went on all summer, sometimes once a week, sometimes for several nights in a row, always in the same place. Thanks for the support in the comments. It's both comforting and terrifying to know. Something changed after that summer. The Gray Lady realized I could see her, and she seemed to like it. She started to come closer. First, she moved from the sidewalk onto our lawn. The distance closed and I could see more detail. Her hair, thin and gray, was matted together. Her coat wasn't just old, it was dirty and torn underneath, as if she'd been wandering through the woods. But the scariest thing were her hands, extremely long, bony fingers, hanging helplessly at the seams like dead sticks. One day, while my parents were sitting in the backyard, I was playing on the porch. I looked up, and my heart stopped. She was standing no more than 10 yards away, behind the bars of our fence. She wasn't just looking. She was smiling. It wasn't a human smile. Her mouth was stretched too wide, revealing the darkness inside. No teeth, just blackness. I screamed in a voice that wasn't my own. My father ran out, but of course there was no one. He searched the entire yard and even ran outside, but to no avail. He thought I might have seen a raccoon or something, but I knew. It was her. After that, I started seeing her everywhere. A flash in the classroom window at school, a reflection in a store window, a crowd at a fair, always far away, always on the edge of my vision, always watching. The scariest thing happened the night before my 8th birthday. I woke up with the feeling that I was being watched. I turned my head to the bedroom window, and there, through the glass, was her face. It was so close, I could see every wrinkle, every spot on her pale parchment skin. Those dark hollows of her eyes were now full of silent, intelligible words. She pressed a long, bony finger to her pursed lips, the universal gesture. Hush. I didn't dare scream. I couldn't move. I just lay there staring into her eyes until my body froze with terror. When I finally screamed, my parents came running. There was no one outside the window, but there was one clear print on the glass. Long, narrow, dirty. A fingerprint. The last post got so many comments telling me to call the police or even move. So we did, both of us. After the window incident, my parents finally took it seriously. They called the police, they set up an alarm. My father even bought a huge dog, a German Shepherd named Max. But the Gray Lady was gone. I didn't see her for the next year. Not a shadow, not a sense of being watched. We began to feel calm. Maybe it was just some crazy neighbor, or maybe it was my childhood imagination, as my mother had said at first. I began to fall asleep without looking out the window. And then on my 9th birthday, we had a party in the backyard. There were balloons, cake, laughter. I forgot about the fear. I was running with the other kids when the ball rolled under the deck, a low space between the ground and the wooden decking of the porch that my brother and I never climbed. It was dark and full of cobwebs. I crawled over to get it, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. And there, at the very end, in the deepest corner where it rested against the foundation of the house, she sat. She didn't move. She didn't smile. Her body was bent in an impossible position to fit in the confined space, her face partially hidden in shadow, but I could see those dark hollows of her eyes. She was looking straight at me. This time there was no window, no distance, just a few yards of dirt and darkness between us. But the scariest thing was what she was doing. She was holding something in her long fingers. It was my doll, the one I hadn't been able to find for weeks. She stroked the doll's hair, completely emotionless, mechanically, never taking her eyes off me. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe. I just crawled away, crawled out into the light, and said nothing. What could I say? She's under our house? After a year of peace, they wouldn't believe me. That night, Max and I locked ourselves in my room. He was sleeping on the carpet next to my bed, and then I woke up to him growling, low, deep, bordering on fear. He was looking out the window. There was no one there. But on the windowsill, outside, lay my doll. Her clothes were covered in sticky, dark mud, and her eyes had been gouged out. We moved 2 weeks later. I never saw the Gray Lady again. Okay, Reddit, here's the finale. Thanks for everyone who read. Know that it didn't end when we moved. The new house in the next town over seemed safe. Years passed, I went to high school, then college. I almost convinced myself that it was all just vivid nightmares created by a child's imagination. But then I got an email from my mom. She said she was sorting through the attic of our old house. They sold it a year after we moved. And she found a box of my old childhood drawings. She scanned them and sent them to me. She wrote, "Look how creative you were." I opened the files and my blood ran cold. Most of the drawings were ordinary. Family, house, son. But there was a whole series, drawn in black marker and pale pencil. She was in every one of them. The Gray Lady. In one, she was standing behind a tree. In another, she was looking out my bedroom window. But the last drawing was the scariest. I drew myself in my bed, and she was standing over me, bent over, her long, spidery fingers reaching out to my face. And from the corner of the room, from under the bed, was another face looking out. Small, a child, but with the same deep black holes for eyes. I don't remember anything about these drawings. Absolutely nothing. The last letter from my mother was another message. She wrote, "By the way, do you remember that strange old woman next door who lived down the street? Mrs. Addison? I thought of her today. They said she was lonely, but she looked after her grandson. He had disappeared a year before we moved in. The police couldn't find anything." Scary, huh? I didn't answer. I just closed my computer and sat quietly. Because now I know. It was never about me. At least, not just about me. She wasn't just watching. She was selecting. And I wasn't the first. And I'm afraid I won't be the last. So, if you've ever been a child and felt that dark, heavy gaze from the darkness, if you've seen a haggard, pale silhouette in your yard, don't ignore it. Run. Run far away. She's still there, and she's always searching.